years ago, I was looking forward to my summer holiday. I was in the process of becoming successful in my work, and I remember I was so excited all the time. I felt like a bird, stretching my wings, flying high. So we went to Italy that summer, and I have to tell you that Italy is one of my favorite countries in Europe. I like everything there. I like the food, I like the wine, I like the fashion, I like the man. And I do like the Italian women too. They look so gorgeous, so elegant. So there I was, laying on that wonderful Italian beach, and everything was just like I'd pictured. But instead of that bird flying high, I had the feeling I could not fly at all. So I asked myself, what's going on? And I found out that I was comparing myself with other women on the beach. And I was thinking to myself, what was I thinking, wearing a bikini? Wasn't it a much better idea to wear a one-piece? Then I found out that I was not only comparing myself to other women on the beach, I was comparing myself with much younger women, some even 30 years younger. I was a few years over 50, and I was comparing myself with young women who did not even have delivered babies yet. So I had not only put myself into the inferior position, the battle was lost even before it began. So thinking I'd seen the light by realizing that comparing myself to these young women would bring me nowhere, especially not towards a good feeling about myself, so I started to look around and see if I could find some women my own age. I changed my mindset and immediately spotted all kinds of women who needed exercising and a good diet. And it got worse. Only 5 minutes ago, I was thinking, what am I doing here in my bikini? And now I was thinking, what are they doing here in their bikini? And I looked at a woman and I thought, oh my God, that looks awful. And to the second, Jesus. And to the third, Holy Mary, am I glad that that's not my body? For the record, I'm not religious, but apparently when I put myself into the superior position, I become. So before I knew it, I had put myself in a position where I felt better than another. And I have to tell you, that felt good. Can't help it, I'm just honest, it felt good. But only for a brief moment. It only felt good till I realized that was fake too. Making myself smaller by putting myself into the inferior position was false, not true, purely false creation of the mind. And making myself bigger than I am by putting myself in a superior position was an illusion too. Both false, not true. There was no inner peace for me there. So why do we do that? We see it everywhere. For starters, in politics. Before, they used to tell us their specialties and their experiences, but nowadays they just bring the other person down, telling bad things about him or her. It looks like it has become their talent. And as I said, we see it everywhere, even in romantic relationships. Of course, when your relationship starts, it's the other way around. You put your brand new partner on a pedestal, liking everything about him or her. He is a god or she's a goddess. But soon as the butterflies disappear, slowly but surely, you see more and more things you don't like. And you see more and more habits you don't want. So you bring your partner down. But we have to realize that when we find ourselves in one of those two positions, inferior or superior, or we push our partner in any of those positions, our relationship is in danger. Because if you do, it means you're not in harmony with yourself. You don't find yourself good enough, fast enough, strong enough, or in my case, not skinny enough to wear a bikini. How did we end up being so critical to ourselves? Did you ever wonder? We live in abundance, but our mindset is of scarcity. In Western Europe, we live in prosperity, but still we make ourselves believe that we don't have enough, and even more, that we are not enough. We're so afraid to fail. And at the same time, we're even more afraid to succeed, afraid to shine, because we have this silly idea in our heads, thinking we're not worth it, and that we never have to take off and fly high. The society we live in is giving us a hard time as well. It starts at school, where we have this typical grading system, where the focus is not on what we've done right. No. It's about how many mistakes you have made. And in our kind of competitions, there's only room for top 3. There's only one winner. And the rest does not even count. So we're constantly pressured to perform better and better. As a parent, we can be very critical towards our children as well. With the best intentions, of course, we want to encourage them. But often we do not realize that you cannot stimulate or motivate someone by bringing him down or by punishment. On the contrary, it just works the other way around. If you're often criticized as a child by your parents, teachers, or anyone else in society, chances are very big that by the time you're an adult, you're constantly criticizing yourself. And then it's just a matter of time before you start criticizing the people around you. Today, there's also the other side of the coin. Our young children are all princes and princesses and praised for everything they do. And many parents are fooled here as well, thinking that this might be a good way to stimulate or motivate their children. In my opinion, reflecting on the relationship you have with yourself is the best thing you can do. Because the relationship you have with yourself is the foundation for any other of your relationships you have in your life. This is where everything starts. This is where everything begins. And it's such a cliche, I know, but even so true. Just love yourself. I didn't know how to do that for a long time. Do you? There I was, laying on that wonderful Italian beach, and I imagine that a lot of women here today who recognize themselves in my beach bikini story. Maybe some men do as well. It's not very hard to find someone who is thinner, more muscled, or more beautiful than you are. And it's not very difficult to find someone who has more money, a bigger car, or a nicer house than you have. And for sure, you always be able to find someone who's better and faster in your job compared to you. So if you're noticing that you're comparing yourself to someone else, stop it. Just stop it. And hearing myself say stop it, I realized that it sounds like it's easy to do, but it's not. But once you're aware of it, it becomes a choice. Comparing yourself to someone else is always asking for troubled feelings. And don't compare yourself to yourself. You know how that goes. Oh, 5 years ago, I looked so good. I was so skinny. Or before I had children, I had a wonderful body. Or I wasn't gray 5 years ago. I promise you, and I'm the expert here, in 10 years' time, you will all be longing for the body you have now. So why not enjoy it today? There I was, laying on that wonderful Italian beach. And the pendulum in my head went from feeling inferior to feeling superior when I suddenly remembered a wise lesson my father once taught me and which I was totally forgotten. My father spent 4 years in a Japanese concentration camp during World War II. And these Japanese concentration camps were especially known for their torture and their terror. My father never spoke about those 4 horrifying years until that day. I was already an adult by the time, and he did not agree in one of my decisions. I can't remember the topic really. I don't remember, but I do remember very clearly what happened afterwards. My father said to me, "You are incapable of seeing reality." Excuse me? I was the one passionate about self-development. I was the one working very hard in therapy, and it was me that used all my savings to go do these workshops about self-love. My father was not impressed, and he repeated, "You are incapable of seeing reality." I did not want to hear it. It was a blind spot, and I preferred it to stay blind. But he just went on, and he told me that when he was a little boy, his father, my grandfather, taught him that every human being is equal. And he held true to this belief his entire life, even while living in a concentration camp. So with every physical threat, with every bloody beating, with every brutal humiliation, he could think, we are equal. I remember myself crying. He just told me how he had survived. And as I said, my father never spoke about those horrifying years. And I don't think he meant to tell me that day either. But it was until then that I realized that this beautiful man, this beautiful person as he was, went through hell, and he could still see the goodness in the world. He could still see it. He had refused to be put into the inferior position, and he had realized he couldn't put others there either. No better, no worse, only equal. Equal. That is what we are. No better, no worse than another. So let's stop feeling better or worse than another. Equal. No matter your skin color, your gender, your profession, your religion, or the money on your bank account. Equal. Because only in equality we can fully give, fully receive, fully connect, and fully relate to each other. Equal. Because only in equality there's nothing more divine than to look into each other's eyes, realizing that you look into the mirror and share. In equality there's silence, the feeling of being one and just being. It was there and then on that Italian beach that I realized I was that bird, and I had all the possibilities to fly high and freely, but by putting myself into the inferior or superior position, I was constantly clipping my own wings. So, how many times have you been clipping your own wings, or let someone else clip them for you? Let's put this to an end, and let us be what we've always been, equal, so that we can all fly high and freely. Thank you.